On the north of Syria, there are growing tensions between the Turkish-backed Syrian National Army and the predominantly Kurdish Syrian Defence Forces. Ankara makes little secret of its desire to crush Kurdish autonomy in the north of Syria. But what of the new regime in Damascus? How will the HTS seek to regulate its relations with Syria's largest ethnic minority, whose administration is committed to secular governance? Joining me now on set, France 24's Rob Parsons is here with me today. Rob, let's start with the new interim government in Damascus. How does the HTS appear to see its relation with the Kurds?
Well, it's probably a little bit too early to say. We're not sure what the position of HTS is going to be on a whole lot of things, although they've spoken about inclusivity, about respect for minorities, whether they're religious or ethnic, and certainly the issue of the relationship between the Kurds in the north and northeast and Damascus is going to be critical for what happens next in Syria. The relationship between the Kurds and Damascus has historically not been a particularly good one. The Assad regime was pretty hostile to the Kurds by and large. Much of the opposition, the Syrian opposition, has been unsympathetic towards the Kurds as well. But the reality that HTS faces, trying to set up a new administration whose writ spreads right throughout Syria, is that the Kurds, which make up about 10% of the population, perhaps a little bit less, control about 25% of the territory of Syria, including much of the oil field territory. In other words, land that is very important for Damascus. They also control some cities which are predominantly Arab in makeup, if you think of Raqqa, for instance. But perhaps even more fundamentally than that, they have set up an administration called the Autonomous Administration of North and East Syria, which is quite clearly secular in its makeup and intent and its form of governance. So that is a real challenge right from the start to HTS, whose leaders are working on a new constitution at the moment. In effect, the Kurds have preempted them on that. They're saying, this is what we want. This is what we're prepared to fight for, although they also recognize the authority of Damascus over the whole of Syria. But they want autonomy. And that is potentially a big problem for Damascus. At the same time as that, there's the relationship with Turkey as well. Turkey is hostile to the Kurds, has set up effectively a buffer just inside the Syrian border. On the one hand, HTS may be thinking, well, that's not bad for us, that weakens the Kurds. But on the other hand, the problem for them is that it strengthens the role of Turkey inside Syria as well. And that's something they're probably not very happy about.
As you said, Rob, it's not just Damascus that is wondering how to deal with the Kurds. There's also Turkey, who's been a major player in northern Syria, as we've just discussed, and makes no secret of its opposition to the Kurdish autonomy.
Absolutely. For many years now, Ankara has been trying to undermine the Kurdish autonomy in Syria. It is quite categorically hostile to it, despite the fact that the United States supports the Syrian Democratic Forces, which are led by the Kurds, and an offshoot, and here this is where the problem arises for Turkey. The Kurdish groups inside the SDF are sympathetic to the PKK, which is a Kurdish force fighting in Turkey for separation from Ankara, regarded by Turkey and by the United States as terrorists. Turkey is absolutely intent on undermining any sort of autonomy for the Kurds in Syria, because it feels that will strengthen the fight of the PKK for separatism, for separation from Turkey. So that is what's going on there. From the point of view of the United States, however, the situation is complicated, and this is why they support the SDF and the Kurds in northern Syria, because of the role they've been playing in fighting against the Islamic State. Critical to destroying the Islamic State in northern Syria with the help of the United States. And today they play a key role in guarding the prisons where Islamic State prisoners are held, about 10,000 prisoners. Without the Kurdish guards there, they could very easily just escape. What the Kurds are saying is that Turkey starts attacking them in the northwest of Syria, they're being forced to move their guards away from the prisons to fight against the attacks from the Turks, increasing the possibility of a breakout of prisoners of IS prisoners in northern Syria. The United States clearly opposed to that idea. The last thing it wants is for Islamic State to exploit a possible vacuum of power in Syria, and is trying to put pressure on the Turks to slow down or to stop its operations against the Kurds. So far, however, it doesn't seem as if the Turks are listening to the Americans.